the car. You're lost. She accused him. What do you know about Bombay? Your own city, only it never was. To you, it's a dream of childhood. Growing up in Scandal Point quarters, did Chief Senna elements come there to make communal trouble? Were you neighbors starving in textile strikes? Did Dada Samanj stage a rally in front of your bungalows? How old were you when you met a trade unionist? How old was you, or were you, the first time you got on a local train instead of a car with a driver? That wasn't Bombay, darling, excuse me. That was Wonderland Pearstan, never, never Oz. And you, Saladin, reminded her, were you back then? Same place, same people, she said fiercely, with all the other bloody munchkins. Backstreets, a Jain temple was being repainted and all the saints were in plastic bags to protect them from the drips. A pavement magazine vendor displayed newspapers full of horror. A railway disaster. Bhupen Gandhi began to speak in his mild whisper. After the accident, he said, the surviving passengers swam to the shore. The train had plunged off a bridge and were met by local villagers who pushed them under the water until they drowned and then looted their bodies. Shut your face, Zini shouted at him. Why are you telling him such things? Already he thinks we're savages, a lower form of life. A shop was selling sandalwood to burn in nearby Krishna temple, and sets enameled pink and white Krishna eyes that saw everything. Too damn much to see, Bhutan said. That's a fact of a matter. Or a matter of fact, this is a fact of matter. In a crowd dhaba that George had started frequenting when he was making contact for movie purposes with the dadas and bosses who ran the city's flesh trade. Dark rum was consumed at aluminum tables, and George and Bhutan started lazy-boozy a quarrel. Zini drank thumbs of cola and denounced her friends to Chamcha. Drinking problems, both of them, broke as old pots. They were both mistreat their wives. They both mistreat their wives. Sit in dives, waste their stinking lives. No wonder I fell for you, sugar. When the local product is so low grade that you get to like foods from foreign people. George had gone with Zini to Bhopal, and he was becoming noisy on the subject of the catastrophe, interpreting it in ideological terms. What is America for us? He demanded. It's not a real place. Power is in its purest form, disembodied, invisible. We can't see it, but it screws up totally. No escape. He compared the Union Carbide with a company of Trojan horses. We invited the bastards in. It was like the story of the 40 thieves, he said, hiding in their waving the night to go away, and we had no Alibaba, misfortunately. He cried. Who did we have, Mr. Rajiv Ji? At this point, Bhupen Gandhi stood up abruptly and steadily, and began as though possessed, as though a spirit were upon him, to testify. For me, he said, the issue cannot be foreign intervention. We always forgive ourselves for blaming others. America, Pakistan, excuse me, George, but for me it all goes back to Assam. We have to start with this. The massacre of the innocents. Photographs of children's corpses arranged neatly in the lines like soldiers in a parade in Rome. They had been clubbed to death, pelted with stones, their necks cut in half by knives. Those neat ranks of death, Chamcha remembered, as if only Aura could sting India back into its orderliness. Bhutan spoke for 29 minutes without hesitations or pauses. We all are guilty of Assam hence. We, each person, each one of us, unless we can call it in ourselves a civilized people, we drink rum quickly and speak when these voices louder and our bodies begin to lean dangerously. But although the room falls silent, nobody moves towards them. Nobody tried to stop him from talking. Nobody called him a drunk. In the middle of a sentence, everyday blindings or shootings and corruptions. Who do we think we are? He sat down and started breathing heavily into his glasses. Now a young man stood up in far corner of the joint and argued back. Assam had to be understood politically, he cried. There were economic reasons, and yet another fellow came to his feet to reply. Cash matters, to not explain why. A grown man chibs a little girl to... Another fellow said, if you think that, you never been hungry, sailor. How bloody romantic to suppose economics cannot make men into beasts. Chamcha clutched his glasses at the noise level that rose, and the air seemed to thicken. Gold teeth flashed in noise levels rising, and the air seemed to thicken with his shoulders rubbing against his, elbows nudged. The air was turning into soup, and his chest, the irregular palpitations, had begun. George grabbed him by the wrist and dragged him all into the street. You okay, man? You were turning green. Slatton nodded his thanks, gasped in lungfuls of the night. Calm down. Rum and exhaustion, he said. I have the peculiar habit of getting my nerves after the show. Quite often I get wobbly. Should have known. Zini was looking at him, and there was more in her eyes than sympathy. A glittering look, triumphant, hard. Something got through you, her expression gloated. About bloody time.